All right, let's bring the February 18, 2015 Energy and Environment Committee regular meeting to order. Mr. Prieto?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Item number 1, motion to appoint District Corporation relative to instructing the Bureau of Sanitation a report regarding new performance metrics. The Bureau of Sanitation has submitted a report to your committee about an hour and a half ago. It is now before you to review as well, too. We have staff from sanitation report on the matter.
Very good. Let's go ahead and have staff come up and give us an oral report, and we will continue the item so that we can review the report. But in the meantime, give us a synopsis of how it is that we are going to measure things better in Los Angeles so that we give the ratepayer the best value for their nickel.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Shram Karagani, Los Angeles Sanitation. I will be very brief because I know that we have been here for a while. So again, as your motion describes, measuring things is something that we have been doing in Bureau of Sanitation for a long time. Some of these metrics that I'm going to share with you has been already or have been already included in both the LA Sanitation Stat and also the Executive Directive number 5. So your motion requested us to look at 4 areas, which I'm going to go through very briefly on. The issue of the stormwater capture, infiltration, and storage. Again, as you have said it frequently, in the meetings that I have attended, it's very important for us to capture the rainwater. For every half an inch, billions of water during the winter time, they're going to go to LA River without us, capturing that. So the metric that we are going to use is to have number of projects that we are going to do. And obviously, those projects are going to help us to reduce our reliance on the imported water. Again, as you have been briefed, most of our water, 85% of our water is imported from unsecured sources. The co-benefit to that metric of number of projects obviously is water quality, green jobs, neighborhood, greening, quality of life, and I could go on, flood protection, reduction in claims, so on and so forth. So that's one metric that we have, a council member for, Mr. Chair, for the stormwater arena. Water quality and pollution abatement, the second item on your motion. The overall goal that we have, this is just for us to comply with our MS4, because complying with that would improve all the multi-benefit items that you have discussed. Again, and some of the performance metrics that we have here, as has been demonstrated by Hilda Bay, complying with our permit would provide us a report card along our beautiful beaches that hundreds of millions of people come each year. For us to visit our beaches right now, we have been receiving A grades since we have been implementing series of projects, what we call low flow diversion along the beach. Moving on to other part of, so that's the rainwater part. On the recycled water, again, I like to use your term, every molecule of the recycled water has to be put in beneficial uses. And in LA Sanitation, we have a number of plans for all of our 4 treatment plants in collaboration with Department of Water and Power and other water purveyor to make sure that every molecule of water that we recycle is going to be put to beneficial uses. Again, series of metrics that we have. These are 1 million gallons per year for our 4 beautiful treatment plants that we have from Hyperion to Terminal Island to Tillman and to Los Angeles Glendale. And of course, the co-benefit of this metric is going to be, again, reduction of our reliance on unsecure sources of water, besides the cost and everything else that it take us to bring the water from far places to Los Angeles. Last but not least is the stormwater and wastewater system integrity. That's our infrastructure. We have 2 issues here. One is just the infrastructure health that has been already assessed by American Society of Civil Engineers. The other one is hydraulic capacity, and the metric that we have put as far as that to make sure we have enough project on flood protection and also on the wastewater system, renewal and repair in such a way that our system, both on wastewater side and the stormwater side, receive B grade and better as opposed to be below that. And of course, the benefit of that would be public health and safety, environment, reduced flooding claims, sewer overflows, and so on and so forth. There are so many benefits that come. That's in a brief the 4 areas that you have asked us, to look at metrics. These are some of the metrics. There would be other ones as you read the report and as we come back to you from time to time the report.
What kind of metrics does the department currently use?
Regarding which stormwater right now?
Is there something that you blend that captures sort of our overall effectiveness, or is it completely categorical where it's stormwater?
It is categorical right now.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And it's not that the other agencies and bureaus have left the room that I'm asking this, but are there performance metrics that should be created in conjunction with them so that we start really looking at the whole cycle of water versus just sort of what it is that you all look at?
In my opinion, yes, Mr. Chair, and we are working closely with Water and Power and others to create those metrics.
Okay.
Because working together is what actually in the final step is going to bring the ratepayers, relief.
Very good. Mr. Blumenfield, do you have any questions? Very good. Let's go ahead and hold that item then in committee. And I do not believe that I have. Peter, did you want to speak on this item, number one?
Yeah, just real brief.
Come on up. Yeah, I'm sorry. I couldn't tell by. Very good. Come on up. Item number one.
So good afternoon, Peter Schellenbarger from Gila Bay. Just real brief, I just want to highlight that the current metrics is greatly limiting its ability to characterize and measure the benefits of capture of stormwater. And the motion would greatly enhance the ability to characterize the Bureau's actions. But I want to highlight that I'm not quite sure, I haven't seen the report, but that if we're going to identify and characterize these benefits, that we should probably try to place some type of dollar value on them if we're going to be doing some type of cost-benefit analysis. And I would really like to emphasize that it should be a benefit-cost analysis because there's so many benefits that we see when we're capturing stormwater. And I'd also, like I said, I'm not quite sure the additional metrics that we will be using or the Bureau will be using, but I would really like to see if we could characterize or if they could characterize downstream benefits, habitat, human health, H2O quality, local economy benefits, as well as imported water offsets. I think that would be really beneficial. So to conclude, I really think that we need to put monetary values on these. If we don't put a monetary value on these benefits, then in essence we're basically putting a zero value on it and it's unmeasured. So,
very good.
Opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Mr. Blumenfield.
Comment or thought, which is, as we go to measure the benefits and looking at the dollar values, this is also, this whole motion is really about aligning the benefits. The different departments are all, sometimes the ones who have to outlay the costs are not the ones who see the benefits of those costs. And that's always a problem in government when you have the different silos. And the nice thing about the motion is moving, putting it all together so that we're making decisions that are in the best interest of the city, not the different silos. So in some ways it would be helpful if as we look at the benefits, we not only look at the benefits to the public and in general, but we look at to what agency those financial benefits accrue. And that can be helpful in terms of aligning the costs down the road, because the costs may all fall on one agency and the benefits are going to the other. And in as much as we can align that or have a methodology for rejiggering that, that's going to benefit the overall city and our overall effort. I'm not sure quite how to do that, but I just sort of throw that out there as something. At least the first step in doing that is having an awareness of where those benefits financially accrue in terms of the city structure.
I think it's a very salient point because I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this notion that the silos are a sort of a concern, and I think that's why this important, to underscore what you said is so important. The conversation is so important so that we can start really measuring success. And maybe at some point we get to a place where it's not necessarily street miles paved or tree trunks removed, because bettering the previous year's sort of attempts isn't necessarily a success anymore, I don't think. And this will, I think, hopefully illustrate that and give us real objectives that maximize the benefit for the ratepayer ultimately. So I couldn't agree more. We will continue the conversation. We'll hold this item in committee, noodle it some more now that we've got a chance to study this report. So with that, if it's okay with you, Mr. Blumenfield, let's go ahead and take items 2 and 3 together, and as much as both items are pertaining to a bond issuance.
Sure. Mr. Chair, 2 and 3 relate to water and power reports, CRO reports as well, seeking authorization to refund $650 million in water system revenue bonds And the third item, $1.5 billion in power system revenue bonds. And this would grant the Board of Water and Power Commissioners the authority to refund these bonds.
Hi, I'm Phil Leiber. I'll just say a few brief comments about this today.
Robert Roth, CAOs.
And, excuse me, Mark Davis with that CAO.
So this is an initial resolution to allow the department to refund $1.5 billion of debt on the power side and $650 million on the water side. We're very pleased to be able to report that we do see a lot of good opportunities to refund a portion of our debt and save customers money. On the power side, this is very important because we have about $7.9 billion of debt outstanding, and on the water side, about $4.2 billion. We are in an interest rate environment where we can get some very low cost of funds. About 3.8% was what we paid on our last bond issuance. We do have some particular bonds in mind to refund. In fact, yesterday we brought to our board a proposal to refund about $600 million of power system debt that will save us $183 million over the next 30 years, about $7.3 million per year. That will allow us to reduce rates from what they otherwise would have been by about 0.5% per year. So the department is looking for every opportunity to save ratepayers money, and taking advantage of these historically low interest rates is a key way we're doing that. So we're hopeful that you'll authorize these resolutions to allow us to proceed.
Very good. If we could have the ratepayer advocate come and join us and give us their perspective on items 2 and 3, please.
We have reviewed the overall financing plan, but not the specifics in terms of the department's estimate of specific savings on this. But we look forward to the savings in this changed interest rate environment.
It's your sense, though, that there is savings. You just haven't figured out how much the savings would be?
We have not reviewed their calculations on this one.
Okay, very good. CAO, any comments, questions, concerns?
The CAO's office has worked closely with the DWP's debt group, and we're in support of approving this motion. It should be noted on the power side, previous transactions have been completed, and there was net savings, actual savings instead of what we're forecasting. We have the department reported $158 million, or a 16% improvement in the cost of borrowing. So this is something the department has experience with, and again, we support approval.
Very good. Mr. Blumenfield.
Great, thank you. Anytime we can save money by financing or refinancing, I'm all for it. That's the best way to save money for the city, because there's no costs associated with it generally. And this is probably a completely unfair question, but why now? Interest rates have been low for a long time. Most people assume that they're about to tick up. So it's not really a fair question to ask, but I want to ask it anyway. And then more generally, how do we make sure that you have the authority to do this in a timely manner so that you take advantage of these financial opportunities when they come up, and so that even the action now is taken advantage. Nobody knows what interest rates are going to do, but there's you follow the trends. It looks like they're about to go up. We want to make sure we're ahead of that curve. So sort of the specific and then the general question of how do we make sure that you have the ability to do this in a timely manner.
Phil Leiber again, I'll answer this question. So we are always on the lookout for opportunities to do this. The thing that prevents something that has to be kept in mind is bonds are issued generally with a 10-year call date, and for the most part they have to be outstanding for 10 years before you have the opportunity to call them. You can do something called an advance refunding, but it gets more complicated and you can only do that once. So we mainly look at bonds that are callable after 10 years. So there's a limited universe of our whole outstanding debt that we can do this for. But as each year goes by, we haven't missed any opportunities to, when the bonds become callable, to refund them if we can save them. And we have a whole pool of investment bankers who are also looking over our shoulder and monitoring these events. And there's a lot of people looking out for opportunities to save the ratepayers' money. So we do ask for sufficient capacity $1.5 billion here, even though it's more than we think we're going to need at the moment, so that if we see an opportunity, we can take advantage of it quickly.
You mentioned about $183 million in savings. Is that what it was?
That's the projected amount. We won't know what the certain amount is until we actually issue the refunding bonds, but that's our current projection.
And so your sense is that evenly split between the power and the water side?
That was just on the power side.
Just on the power side,
Yeah.
What about on the water side?
On the water side, we're still working on those. We don't have an estimate yet, so we're just asking for the overall authority, and we'll begin looking for the individual opportunities subsequently.
Okay. Well, at some point, I don't know how we do this procedurally. I think it's important to have the ratepayer advocate be able to review the numbers and also for us to understand how much it is that we did save the ratepayers. We don't get many opportunities to herald success and save in money because costs are going up and the demand slope is also sort of increasing. So if there's a way for you all to communicate to us once you've done the number crunching how much it is that we're saving the ratepayers, I think as verified by the ratepayer advocate, that's really helpful to all of us. So
We'd be pleased to do that.
yeah, let us know how you do that.
Related to all that is also the fees that we're paying. And this comes up in Budget Committee a lot, or it has, about looking at overall the fees that we're paying for some of our financial issues, and many of them have been questioned. Not so much, nothing related to this directly, but so I just want to make sure when we are looking at the cost savings that we not only look at the big picture, which is, the interest rate delta and what we're able to save off of that, but we also look at the different Wall Street fees that we're paying and making sure that we're using our bargaining power as the behemoth that we are to ratchet those fees down and making sure that we're not missing those opportunities too, because that can often be real money as well.
And I can commit to you that we do that. We have a number of banks that we work with, and they're basically falling over themselves to give us the best deal possible because we hold their feet to the fire and try to save as much as we can. And the savings that I did talk about are net of all those fees.
Very good. There is one speaker card, Ms. Sarnoff. This is item 2 and 3, so come on up and you get a chance to speak on both items. 2 for 1. We're running a special today.
Do I get 4 minutes?
No.
Oh, that's too bad. Because I had some questions, but I'll just read a statement. My name is Ruth Sarnoff, and I think that $265 million is a lot of money to be transferring from the Department of Water and Power into the city's general fund, particularly at this time. The DWP has been making these annual transfers to the city's general fund for at least a decade, and their size has grown. While apparently not illegal based on city code, they are also not mandatory. Miles of underground pipes that deliver water to residents are breaking at a rate that is unacceptable. Quality of water is also a problem due to pollution, especially in the valley. The thought of losing massive amounts of water during a drought is agonizing. Already compromised pipes plus an earthquake seem like a perfect storm in the making. Also, policymakers at every level of government need to take a fresh look when making decisions because climate change is changing everything. And without water, we cannot sustain life in the southern part of California. We haven't even been monitoring our groundwater. If the money transferred for these many years from DWP over to general fund had been spent to repair and replace pipes in a timely manner with real money and without incurring debt, perhaps the specter of a $1.3 billion plan without funding would not be a front-page story in yesterday's LA Times. It is hard to justify the raising of water rates when money is being transferred. It is not right that those struggling so hard to survive, half of LA households, should be the ones to bear the brunt of rising water rates. The main revenue for DWP is from ratepayers. I feel strongly some broader discussion of these transfers should take place. Can I finish?
No. Actually, thank you very much for your comments. What I wanted to share with you, I wanted to let you finish your statement. When you fill out a speaker card for an item, you're to speak to that item. Your comments there were more for public comment, and we absolutely appreciate your perspective. But I want to make sure that you know what the rules are. When you fill one of these out and you put an item there, you have to speak to that item. Today we're discussing the issuance of bonds and trying to get more money back to the ratepayer. But thank you very much for your testimony. We don't have a quorum, so we'll just go ahead and communicate items 2 and 3 to the full council with no objection.
Very good.
With that, we'll go to item number 4 now. Thank you.
Item number 4, Department of Water and Power and Sierra reports relative to proposed amendment number 3, the existing agreement with OGMA Consulting to provide proprietary computer software services. We have Matt Lamp from the Department of Water and Power to present the matter, and Mark Davis as well from the CAO.
Very good. Item number 4.
Do you want to start? Okay. Matt Lamp, Chief Information Officer, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. This is an amendment to a consulting agreement with AGMA Consulting Corporation. AGMA is the developer of the open software, which is the software we use for our procurement system. That system was first contracted to be installed in 2007 and supports our entire procurement system, really, from requisition through bid advertisement, proposal solicitation, electronic submittal of responses. Some of the evaluation components of bids are automated, and then we issue our purchase orders and contracts through the system. So it's been in place for over 6 years. It interfaces to a number of our legacy systems for accounts payable and financial matters. This agreement, this amendment, essentially allows us to continue to receive the proprietary services from AGMA, the software manufacturer. So routine software maintenance, some off-site technical support, some advanced on-site technical support, and where we have to make changes due to either changes in operating requirements or changes that we're doing within the supply chain process to make supply chain improvements, we need to rely on AGMA as the software developer to help us make those changes. This contract basically continues that support, this amendment, for the next few years.
And it's anticipated that you need to, so it also extends it by 5 years. Is there anything special that we need to be aware of, or this is just the natural course of what needs to happen with the system?
I mean, we have the ability to terminate that at any point in time. We are looking now, we're starting the process to look at replacing our legacy financial systems. And while we don't believe at this point replacing the procurement system will be part of that, that's still to be really evaluated. That is, when we go to a new ERP, Enterprise Resource Platform, it may turn out it's easier to adopt the procurement piece in that platform than it is to interfaces. As we've looked at it, we don't think so, because our purchasing processes are pretty complex. We have a lot of special rules that exist here, and those are all built into this and would require, we believe, considerable customization to move to the ERP. So what we've done here is incorporated some funding in the out years to help build those interfaces, but if in the evaluation it makes more sense to move to the ERP, then this basically will allow us to sustain it and terminate the contract at any point in time. We'll be well past any minimum payments due under this contract.
Very good. Mr. Blumenfield, any questions?
Yeah. Is the cost, it looks like the cost is actually going up, or is it just proportionally additional dollars for the additional years? Is it costing us more per year under the new extension?
The routine maintenance and advanced support has a small increment, I think 4 or 5% a year in it. The remainder is basically how much we've allocated and set aside for potential software changes. So that varies across the years, but the biggest piece is roughly $1 million that's set aside for dealing with the interfacing with the ERP if we move ahead with that project. If we don't move ahead with that project, we will not spend those dollars. But it gives us the capacity to be able to move smoothly into that when we get there.
How do we not go ahead with that project? So in 5 years from now, if we hadn't gone ahead with the project, we're faced with the same decision again?
Yeah, I mean, if we anticipate that we will be retaining the OGMA software as the procurement vehicle. It works unless we're making some substantial changes to how all the city and DWP rules around procurement. This software seems to meet our needs quite well. The questions will be, will there be any particular gains in terms of how it has to interface with the new financial system? Work we're doing now, if you think about supply chain, there are really three major components: procurement, receiving, and then inventory. Receiving, and we had a 1980s sort of integrated system that did those three things. We replaced procurement first because that really has the most interaction to the outside world, right, in terms of electronic bids, the ability to sort of make the procurement process more open and available to people outside. Receiving and inventory are really kind of inside baseball. And we are working now on a project using Maximo software, which is really a work and asset management software, to build inventory and receiving into that. So again, a modern platform that will handle those two parts of the supply chain. So we're not anticipating having to redo those as part of the new financial system, but rather just connect the right pieces into the new financial system. But we expect that there will be some interface work we have to do, and we want to make sure we're not finding that out and then having to rush through a contract or another contract amendment to say, oh yeah, we're going to need another $250,000 or $500,000 to make sure we get these interfaces built into this proprietary system. We've been in that situation before. It puts it sort of us on extra stress. It puts our commission on extra stress. It puts you on extra stress because we didn't anticipate those things in advance. So we're really trying to build some of those contingencies here based on some of the experiences we've had with large projects and some of the complexity of those interfaces.
And the $1 million is firewalled off from the other stuff so that it can only be used for that purpose?
No, it's not, but we report to our board pretty regularly on that, and we don't, it's firewalled off in terms of it's got to be used around this software and the procurement, and so in that sense it can't drift off into other projects unrelated to the supply chain and work with OGMA, who is a very niche vendor in this space.
But OGMA can't, let's say, beef up their price another 10%, 20%,
No.
and then we would eat into our...
No, not on the software maintenance or the advanced support. That pricing is set in the contract terms.
Does OGMA do service for other departments as well?
No, they do not. They were the result of an RFP in 2007, before I came to the department. They have done work for other governments, so government procurement is an area of sort of their expertise. But no, they don't work with other city departments at this point.
What do the other city departments do?
There is because I'm not sure about airports and port, the other proprietaries. The city as a whole, the whole procurement process with general services is very, very different, and they have a centralized procurement system. I believe it's based on PeopleSoft software, and I know there's some discussion going on about whether they will migrate that to the same software vendor that does the city's financial system. But that is really based around sort of the general services, the way departments procure through general services.
I know that's the idea, eventually, to get it all migrated to the financial system so they can all
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed, and if, we were to start over, maybe that's where we go. The fact that this system is working quite well. We've done a lot of work with our vendor community to get them familiar with it. We tend to have pretty advanced online bidding capabilities now. In fact, when some of the predecessor work we were doing on the financial system replacement, we had some people do some sort of preliminary looks at where we thought we might get benefits, and they had some key questions around payroll and other things. And when we looked at where we were on the procurement sort of thing, we were either in the middle or ahead on most of the variables because of our adoption of this system, where in other areas of our financial systems, which date back to the 70s and 80s, we're not anywhere close to sort of being able to be at current levels of efficiency and practice. So those are our focus. Adding this into that project adds a large piece of scope that we're not sure we see a benefit in doing, and if we can maintain this software and interconnect it, that appears at this point, and as I say, it's preliminary. We're just bringing our quality assurance consultant on board. We're a year away from bringing a system integrator in, and we will be working with those two entities to help us validate what our final strategy is there. But at this point, it does not seem that adding this level, the complexity of a new procurement system or changing around the procurement makes a lot of sense at this point in time.
Very good. We will go ahead and communicate approval of your request for the Department of Water and Power to execute amendment number 3 as described in the report. Very good. That brings us to general public comment. Ms. Sarnoff?
I would like to address process a little bit. I feel like there are times when there could be, and I feel it actually stronger in the council chambers itself. I've actually felt pretty comfortable in committees. I find that there was a lot of confusion about the meetings. Only one room was mentioned, so I assumed that it was going to remain a joint meeting for all of it, because the other place was not listed, or at least in the announcement of the meeting. So it's difficult enough often to spot what you want to talk about. It was my thought today in coming to these meetings was that it looked like there was going to be a majority of the board, which I assume might include a recommendation to the board to immediately go ahead with, this $265 million transfer from the Department of Water and Power, because I felt like this is an opportunity to reach a lot of the people. It's very hard in city council to sit through hours and hours because often public comment doesn't even come at the end of the meeting, and the meetings vary in length. So I'm just saying, from a standpoint, if you want more public input and you appreciate public input, then sometimes give a little. I had 2 more, literally about 6 more lines. It's kind of like, you're doing something and somebody pulls a plug on it right before you get to the end. It's just an observation. Thank you.
Thanks. Very good. That brings us to the close. Thank you.